Good morning. Welcome to our dev interview series. I'm Carneros, Playable Worlds, and today I am thankful to have a chance to interview David Pitkin, and I appreciate that we've got Thomas helping behind the scenes, running the stream, and that Lyric is playing the game for us. Thank you, all of you. David, tell us what you do at Playable Worlds.
Sure. At Playable Worlds, I'm responsible for all of the infrastructure and engineering team that puts the game together and builds it. So that really means from managing the AWS bill for all of our costs for the servers to hiring engineers and keeping and doing development plans and making sure that we're kind of building the best game we can and build with the best people we can.
This seems like a really big responsibility. Wow. Is this your first job in the games industry?
I actually, about a decade ago, I guess, I worked at the Canonical, the company that makes Ubuntu, and so we were actually running an app store. And so I was actually kind of in the game industry, learning a little bit about it to kind of like add games, get games on Linux was really the big piece. So that was working with the Humble Bundle at that point in time, and
Yep. Yep.
Valve launched their Steam client then. So it was really about just kind of trying to convince indie developers to look at another platform, which was Linux, and kind of got so learned a lot about it, and then made some friends doing that, and that's how I ended up at Playable Worlds to try to help the engineering team kind of evolve and get better.
Nice. Yeah, there are Linux fans in the MMO player base.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's they're sometimes quite vocal. Love it.
Oh,
How
yeah.
how did you hear about Playable Worlds?
Oh,
The first time?
an acquaintance, a friend of mine was working here. Was working here.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I saw a news update in developer circles about what Raf Coster was up to next. And I thought, "Ooh, holy cow!" And when the website went up, I went to it immediately, checked it out, signed up for updates, and uh,
Yeah,
and
no,
then
I
I
joined
did
before
one
we
of
were public.
those. Yeah, wow. Yeah, I went and just they didn't have a job opening for marketing yet, so I posted a uh, uh, open send in a resume anyway type thing,
Yep.
and applied. And then it was a year later that I had an opportunity to actually apply really for a marketing
Nice,
position. But yeah, I was trying.
nice.
Um, yeah, excellent. Yeah, I snuck in and looked at your LinkedIn, and you have some serious companies in your background, serious hardcore tech
Yep.
things on the back. Wow. Yeah. They look like big challenges. Very
I've been,
nice.
I've been lucky enough to work with lots of great people and lots of great companies. Yeah.
Is Playable Worlds what you expected?
What I expected. That's a great question. I think so. Playable Worlds is I still think is fairly unique, given the scope of the game we're trying to create, the
Yep.
indie vibe that we continue to kind of like have as well, as opposed to a large corporate gaming company. Um,
Yeah.
Going through the Kickstarter and pieces has been interesting for sure to see kind of how those pieces go, and yeah, really kind of building this massive game and trying to understand how to get all the tools and the gameplay into the game and kind of make the mix. For me, it's an interesting mix. Traditional software development is like much more software engineering wise. The games are entertainment, right? So there's a whole bunch of art and pieces like that that I've never really been exposed to because that's more akin to uh, I was engineering driven or like product driven. So
Yeah.
that's been the most eye opening for me in certain cases. And we continue to build a very unique game, and so it's not like it's like anything else out there, right?
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. Sorry, I had to pick up the dog because he heard me talking to someone and he didn't know who I was talking to,
Yeah,
and he wanted to see what it was. But he has a short attention span, so I put him down.
yeah.
Um, All right. Yeah. Uh, what kind of games do you like to play?
Oh, I have two pretty active kids, so my game time is limited for sure. What
Yep.
games do I play these days? I play games with the kids
Do you ever
sometimes.
game with them? Yeah.
Yep. Um, let's see. The game I play the most, which is kind of funny, is Pokemon Go because my wife and I play, and we started during the pandemic. Um,
Yeah.
I will admit that I've picked up Baltaro, the
Nice.
the card
Nice.
roguelike card game, poker like.
I thought it was
Very
Balatro or something, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I can
Well,
never
I
get
don't
that
think
either.
it's out of my phone these days. I have played lots of console games, Nintendo, and the kids have an Xbox, so we play games there. Lots of retro games every once in a while. It's fun. It's fun. Not a lot of time to play games though.
No, no, that's
You know,
the world we live
you
in.
know, a game I play a lot. I play Stars Reach a lot.
Yeah, well, there's that. In the live game, what species are you going to play?
I have no idea. All the species aren't even created. We don't even have all the species created.
I know, I know, I know.
Do
What
you
do
know?
you think you might
You know
do
what?
in the game?
You know
I
what you will
do.
do?
Oh hell yeah, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I will admit I have no idea.
Okay. And I don't know all my activities I'm going to do in the game. To
Mhm.
be honest, some days I'm excited about fishing. Some days I'm excited about moving out toward the fringe of the galaxy, looking for new planets and
Boring.
trying
Yeah.
to claim them with my group, type of thing.
Mhm.
So I'm all over the map, honestly. But I do know I'm going to play a Fae character,
Nice.
just because of the lore uh, behind it. But yeah, uh, yeah. All right, all right.
Now,
Um,
I was just checking out watching, uh, who's playing Lyric?
the stream. That's Lyric. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah. I don't know where he is and what kind of a, but that's an interesting. Well, I know what planet he's on, but I don't know what that person's build was that they had set up there. That was kind of strange. Are you sliding on ice, Lyric?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, nice. Welcome to winter. He's good at sliding on ice too. Oh, meteor showers. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, people. But flipping back over to the second. So server side of Stars Reach. Dear Lord. I mean, I've been working on MMOs a long time. It used to be that MMOs had a client and a server, and there was often a relationship between one planet or shard or world that you played in, and one server blade or server or somewhere else. There was a relationship between them. I remember at CCP, for example, they would retire an old server blade, and or at World of Warcraft was better. They'd retire an old server blade, and they would put a plaque on it and say what world it related to, and then they would sell it at charity auctions and raise money
Yeah.
for charity, things like that. Is is there a relationship like that for Stars Reach? Does each planet
Um,
have a server blade somewhere that represents it, or is it more complicated than that?
I don't think it's more complicated than that, but kind of the idea of server blades and cloud technology aren't really kind of one to one, right?
Right.
Amazon, we rent resources from Amazon right now from the back end, and hopefully other providers as we kind of like expand. But Amazon basically sells us like three chunks of work, right? Compute, network, and storage. And so we buy single pieces of chunks of those. Those don't live on a particular server blade anyone can go touch and finger. There's like a virtual machine and some networking bandwidth and some storage that goes along with it. And so each world is represented by a virtual machine that is interspersed with all of Amazon across different data centers across the entire planet.
And
And
is the
ours they're a little bit dynamic, right? So they don't stay up for a long period of
Right.
time. If they have a life cycle, and we expect them to move around.
Right.
Um, some of that's still in development right now, to tell you the truth, in pre-alpha. But that's the vision, right? To have dynamic worlds that are procedurally generated and have a life cycle, and the players are charged with stewarding those planets. And so their life cycle really depends upon how the other players play on them.
Yep. Yep. That makes sense. And is the uh, is the living world simulation running on different machines than the game world is running on? Machine's not the right word because it's all cloud computing.
There's
But
like yeah, so there's the simulation and the game server, which is like the back end piece that does the physics and the colliders and pieces like that. Those are both two pieces of Amazon compute that are kind of like work together, and get built in. They get built in, retired as a kind of as a logical unit, right? And there's other pieces in there too. So like those are just two of the large pieces we talk about the most.
and most of the stuff we're using on the back end we wrote ourselves, didn't we?
Some of it. I mean, we're built on open source stacks of software, and Unity's the game engine behind that runs on the server side, and then lots of pieces we've written ourselves to manage all of it, make our unique game.
Um, is this harder than working at a productivity software back end?
Um, I've worked at lots of different companies. This is a startup, right? So it's as hard as a
Okay.
startup. And our startup, you wear lots of hats and have lots of responsibility across lots of things, and so it's very much like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we ask you all kinds of crazy questions. Anything that has to do with the back end, or we think it might have to do with the back end. I know I ask you about it. I want to open a store, can you know, et cetera. Do I need an engineer for that? You're very patient. Thank you. Um, what if someone wanted to work on the back end of MMOs? What would you recommend they do to prepare themselves for a job like that?
Oh. Hmm. I think it's a traditional software engineering with a penchant for the games industry, um, and so let's see. Um, I think it's a traditional software engineering role, and then you want to specify it in the game industry, which means you're learning about certain different things, right?
Yeah.
You're much more concerned about uh, high concurrencies of users, large amounts of art and frame rate and pieces like that, and optimizations all the time because of the nature of the games. On the back end side of things, it's really kind of gotten more and more standardized as the back ends of again to the history of like where there were blade computers and running those pieces yourselves to more cloud computing, and then yeah, just modern workloads, right? And modern workloads have really kind of changed
Yeah.
from more traditional software engineering to really kind of more of a reliability and resilience are the things we talk about in some cases. We want the service to be very resilient and stay up, um, and keep running, without having to have lots of challenges. So I think it's always been a challenge to watch, even when people come out of software engineering from us. So when you go to hiring a new grad out of software engineering, like what discipline do you really want to go work in? Work on front end and games or those different things. So, but I think a passion for the game industry is probably the other piece that you're kind of looking for
Yeah.
in lots of cases because it does work a little different, right? The life cycles of the companies are a little different. The business requirements are a little different. Games, as you know, Rick, there's like games that are big hits, and there's lots of games that are not. There's lots and lots of games that are not big hits, and so that's another kind of part of the game industry you got to kind of understand. I
Yeah.
find it fun. There's so many games that get worked on that you've never even heard of, right? Because there is,
Yeah.
and then the games is always like a big mix of AAA large studios to independent engineers. So I think having some passion for either indie gaming or wanting to get involved with a larger company, which is just, it kind of does interesting career paths in both cases, right? I think we talk about playable worlds in certain cases that the cost of making games is far outreaching the growth in games in certain cases, because it's becoming increasingly expensive to make new games. Um,
Yeah.
that's an interesting industry challenge, right? Another interesting industry challenge right now is just the state of games after some overinvestment during the pandemic, and so we're kind of seeing like how that does. It baffles the stories that come out of the different companies, the amount of money that's been raised, games that are getting canceled before they even get released after having so much work done on them. Adds for like another level of like a roller coaster compared to more traditional software engineering roles. If I had to say, be honest.
Yep. Quick aside. Oh, geez. How did that happen? Okay. Uh, that was a joke about Lyric face planting there.
How did
Um,
he?
if any of the rest of you in chat have questions, feel free to type them in chat, and we'll field them over here. But next question I had was the tech on the back end changes so fast. Uh, I mean, when I worked on EverQuest 1, it didn't even have a database connected to the server side. It tracked things by putting them in file systems, and that didn't scale very well. I should point out. Now, since then, Jen Chan has gone back and retrofitted a database onto it. She's done amazing work on that stuff. But yeah, I feel like it's different every game. Is that you have to build a new backend for each one that comes.
Yeah, I think
Does
I
is,
think that's
is
true.
ours more flexible and growing this time? Talk
I
about
can
ours.
Sure, I can tell you. I mean, cloud computing has unlocked a little of that, so that there's
Oh,
more industry standard pieces there. Um, I would say that's one of the another big inefficiencies of the game industry, right? Is the fact that like we all that stuff
yep,
does have to get rolled up by itself. I talked to lots of people, the friends in the industry, and kind of and co and partners, and there's a couple startups that are trying to do some things. Pragma is the one that we've looked at a couple times to try to standardize some of those pieces. Unity tries all the time to try to make things a little bit easier
yep,
for developers, right? To make a multiplayer game. Um, but yeah, to your point, there is a lot of reinvention for each game. Mostly sometimes because each game is very unique, right, in its requirements, right? It's not like it's a standard Java SOAP server that's just for serving API requests, right? There's something has to be super timely. The cases for the game are very unique. The frames maximizing the frame per second and kind of making sure that the gameplay stays smooth is a different type of problem that has been solved in the game industry, but not in the broader software engineering industry, right? That we don't worry about in your SAP or your NetSuite or QuickBooks doesn't really care so much about the frame rate, right, of the transactions going on. So there's unique challenges.
yeah. Let's talk about the challenge of regional gaming and latency. Um, is it Am I understanding correctly that our servers aren't located particularly in one position, and that people who play around the world won't suffer more for being far away from the location of our cloud-based server cluster? How will that
Um,
work? How can we help people how can we have people who are far away from each other game in the same game?
yeah, the speed of light and electricity doesn't change, right? That still has to get transfer across the globe. Like we're not going to change that. But more modern internet reduces that far below what it used to be, right? Now you're very used to like streaming Netflix from anywhere. You're using, I find it amazing when you're using the internet at high speed in an airplane traveling 600 miles an hour or on a high speed train at 300 kilometers an hour, right? Like, so a lot of we've invested in the internet across the globe to make lots of those things much less of a problem than they were in the past. Um, Again, the speed of light is the speed of light, and so we have to be able to use unique caching strategies and prediction and server-side rendering to ensure the fact that is minimized as much as possible. So I guess what I would say is it's not like a solved problem. I don't have a checkbox. Like we run servers in a couple different regions, and we have people playing from all over the globe. And it's really kind of up to us to either make or break gameplay elements that are going to either emphasize that lag or not, right? I don't think Stars Reach is the millisecond twitch rate of like a first-person shooter that you need to keep track of in those cases. And so the gameplay really kind of like allows you to kind of to get around some of those. The gameplay really gets you to get around some of those challenges, but as long as it's
Good.
continues to be compelling.
Okay. All right. Um, is your team hiring, or do you think we'll be hiring? You'll be hiring soon.
I hope so. Yes, we are. As we've said it, we're pretty transparent. Like we're a small independent game company raising money. So
Yeah.
as we are able to show attractiveness to investors, we'll be able to go use their money to build the game that we've kind of promised everyone.
Excellent. Good. Well, I see a lot happening. I just I'm not always sure what I can say, but I see a lot happening.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. Um, you'll post positions, and I'll get the word out as soon as
Yes.
that happens. That'll be part of my job. So, what are you working on this week
This
yourself
week.
in the game? Yeah, what are you working on at the moment?
This morning, we spent some time doing some investigation on how fire gases might work. So that instead of so that you'll actually see smoke and fire on certain things, doing some testing there. We also spent some time on server frame rate. There's some concern about making sure that we are able to render all of the objects on the screen and can increase the frame rate. We worry about the minimum spec of the game is kind of like on everyone's mind,
Yep.
as well as scaling the servers, right? And so it's really around planning the next couple weeks worth of work and what we're doing across a bunch of different aspects, right? So there's some new UI work, fun underpinnings that we're working on. There's performance pieces. We're always trying to increase the number of things the simulation does, so that there's more interactions between different resources. Yeah, back-end
Excellent.
authentication work for logging in and making sure all those pieces work. So yeah, and again, we'll start prepping the next release, right? That's the next big thing, is to get some more gameplay into all the players' hands.
I'll tell you what I thought you were going to say. I
What
thought
do
you
you
were
think I
going
was
to
going to say?
say scaling up to 24/7 operations, so we don't have to just do distinct, 3 and 4 hour tests, but can just leave the servers up day and night,
Yeah, there's a lot of
24/7.
work to get to there, but yes, always on
Yeah.
that.
Okay. All right. Once the um, what is something that isn't going to happen for launch that you want to work on after launch? What's something cool, a post-launch feature that you're looking forward to working on when you can get the time to?
Oh, I don't know. For me, it's actually just scale. I mean, there isn't. I would say there's not a piece of gameplay that I'm particularly passionate about from that perspective. For me, it's the accomplishment is like seeing the team build the game and have it be resilient and scale. Right. That's the thing that I'm most is scaling it out to lots and lots of users. Is the thing that I'm the most passionate about, and then I get to do that with luck. Right. So right now, it's a delicate balance of being like, well, we don't need to. We want to make sure the game gets built iteratively, and so we don't overinvest somewhere, and so we actually have a game that we can show people, as well as making sure that it's going to scale in the future.
And that's got to be tricky because you don't know how many people we're going to be able to fit on a planet and still be
Yeah,
performant, and then how many people are going to show up and how many planets we're going to need and spin them up and spin them down. And yeah, no, it's like a moving target there. Yeah.
yeah. Hopefully, again, we're able to build with modern computing that scales horizontally. We're able to make sure that we keep our costs in line and that the servers do auto scale, so they'll let those things. I don't have to worry about those things so much because the computers are doing it for us.
Okay, we have a couple questions in chat. I'm
All right.
gonna so good luck with this. Um, M. Sorella asks, what proportion of the team do you see being devoted to or focused on SRE, which I think they mean Stars Reach, as you
Now,
move closer to
SRE
the
is an
release?
industry term,
Oh, SRE.
site reliability engineering.
Okay, thank you.
I would say in more modern teams, SRE isn't like a dedicated task. Everyone is responsible for some of the SRE tasks. Um, so it's about like 25 to 40% of everyone's job who's working on pieces, and then we have a couple dedicated people 100% to platform engineering. They'll grow as the servers grow, right? So like it's like a function of number of players and number of servers and how much our AWS bill and then the number of people to maintain that is kind of a function of that.
All right, all right. Thank you for that question because you know more about this than I do. And then the Gylem Void asks, David, how does the idea of creating a metaverse roll into how you and your team implement features and solve problems?
Sure.
Uh,
I don't know if we talk the metaverse was like kind of an interesting kind of buzzword for a little while in the industry for a bit. What I would probably tell you is that we think about is not just simply a metaverse, but like what is the galaxy? What are galaxy wide options, right? So what are the things that have to happen across all of the different worlds? Um, is really what I think of there, as well as what's happening on each individual world. So like those two together, I guess, could be called somewhat of a metaverse. I'm sure Raph does mention that it's metaverse like, but that's kind of like that's the full evolution of the game, right? How do we continue to add more simulation pieces to make it more like a living world, and how do we continue to understand how the players interact with each other and spread out across the universe that is Stars Reach, right? So it's multi-planet thing. It's multiple planet things. People who are been on multiple planets, and then everything they do on each individual world, right?
I want to tip my hat to you for that answer because you you carefully dodged a couple things that I'm proud of you for dodging. There are certain things, folks, that we're not ready to tell you about yet. We have a couple tricks up our sleeve. Thank you, though. All right, nice, yeah, nicely done, nicely done. Um, so, wow. All right, one of the things I'm excited about when the game goes live is joining a guild. In fact, I might join more than one. We shall see how that works. Well, you can only join one military organization, and I think maybe only one commercial organization, commercial in the sense of in world commerce. But for social guilds, you could you could join 15 of them if you want to. There's no limit like that. Although I imagine the interface will get annoying eventually. But uh, do does joining any of the player guilds sound interesting to you?
Uh, I think maybe. Yeah,
Maybe.
of
All
course.
right.
It's gonna be interesting to see how the game progresses, right? That's
Yeah.
the big idea in Stars Reach is that does start to become compelling, right? And that
Yeah.
there's benefits and there's quests that you're doing as a guild, and there's different gameplay pieces that are unlocked that require you to be part of the guild.
Yes.
I think all of that is kind of like the most interesting pieces I ask for all the time in pre-alpha because I think those are the more interesting parts
Yes.
of an MMO, right? And so I'm excited for those to exist and eager to get to the point where we're building some of them.
Me too, actually. Uh, and are there any skill trees in the game that you want to try out? Any activities or things that sound interesting to you?
Like, well, I get to see both what we have implemented in the game and what we plan to implement. So, like, I can't talk about some of them, but yeah, it sounds fascinating, right? The amount of the variety of things that we plan to give you in this game is like
Yes.
it's never been seen, um, and so um, I would say I don't know yet, Rick. I think we're still too
Yeah.
early in the
That's
days for
fair.
me to answer that question.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think
Okay.
there's some combat things when I play. Even when we do playtests today,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of fun. There's crafting pieces. There's combat pieces. There's exploration pieces. They're all fun, right? I hope
Yeah,
that the game requires gives helps you guide you down a path to like teach you and explore the game. I know it will by having to do some of all of the things, right? Like that's the
yeah,
keeping people engaged is going to require them to have to do a little of a lot of things and to make friends that can do other things and do other pieces, right?
yeah. I'm hoping your kids like it too and want to play all with you.
I hope
I
so.
think that would be cool. Yeah, yeah. It's I have friends who kept in touch with their family members by playing MMOs long distance from wherever they were
Mhm.
in the world. And yeah, that's great. I keep in contact with my friends that way.
Yeah, no, it's a great. That's
Very cool.
that's why there's such big games is because they transcend just playing like an arcade game to the social connections that are go along with it, right?
Yep, yep. And there are parts of this game that are intensive to play, intense. You like the combat, for example. And then there are parts where you can chill, play, and socialize at the same time. And it doesn't need to have all of your attention. You can focus on the conversation you're having and things. And I think that's really uh, valuable and important in a game. Levels of intensity that can adjust for what you need to do at a given moment. Love
Yes.
that. Yeah. And Lyric and Thomas, if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you joined us late, Lyric Dax is playing the game for us, currently ruining that beautiful hillside by mining something. What is he mining? Breccia and conglomerate. Okay, great. And then Thomas is running the stream engineering part for us here. Uh,
Thank you, Larry and Thomas.
yeah, thank you very much, you guys. Um, that's sculpting. Thank you, Dazzle Sunstrider. Yeah, he's not ruining it. He's sculpting the stone.
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. I miss the artistry in that one. Nice. Okay. You guys are welcome to throw more questions at us. Um, if you are a member of the Discord community and uh, hang out with us in Discord, I want to point out that our guest next Thursday is Voodoo. So Voodoo works on the marketing team, and Larrick and Thomas are going to interview Voodoo next Thursday. That should be fun. He's never been on camera and hasn't done this before, and I'm sure he's nervous. And, that cracks me up. Okay, I should be a nicer person and not find it amusing when someone's nervous on camera. But yeah, I do. And then
What's Larry up to?
what's Lyric up to? Oh, I
He
don't
just
know.
upgraded to a homestead.
I don't know what he did. He turned off his game. Oh, there he is. He's back. He's going to put a homestead down. He probably wants to change out his loadout.
He just
Oh, he's
finished
going to build.
sculpting mining.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see what he can do. And then tomorrow we'll have a new episode of Starside Weekly. We're doing that on Friday mornings. It's the what's happened in Stars Reach this week. Keep you up to date on stuff. We put that out on Friday mornings. Um, it's kind of a new project for us. This will be, I think, our third, but we got a bunch of plans for relying on that as a sort of a weekly newsletter. What's your favorite pizza, Thomas? That's Thomas right there. What's your favorite flavor of pizza?
My favorite pizza? Ooh, we just had an offsite in San Diego, and my favorite pizza that I had there was a white pepperoni pizza.
Okay, white pepperoni. All right. I like sausage and mushroom, but I also like basil leaves and garlic on it too, which
Nice.
sounds like a heavy pizza, but it's good for your soul. No, that's what I say. Thomas uh, lives in Italy and is Italian, and pizza for him is not an arbitrary subject. It's actually more meaningful than that. Okay. Can we? Oh yeah, pineapple on pizza. Dazzle. Geez. And then somehow Dazzle had a graphic for pineapple on pizza. Wow. Okay.
That's like a big internet meme. People either like pineapple or not in their pizza, right?
Yeah. And then Nagilum Void says, I've heard and read about pieces of the game being written in TypeScript to improve iteration speeds. What are some things you like and dislike about that?
Oh, sure. Let's see. Things that I like about it are that it's fairly easy to change part of the data of the game in lots of cases and make changes there. The things that I don't like about it is that it's a little bit fragile sometimes, right? So it's very easy. It's as easy to implement, add something new as it is to add a bug. And so there's a lot of time to make sure all the data is kept in the right state from an integrity standpoint, so that the it's easy to make a small typo and not get caught and pieces like that. There's a trade-off for that speed, right? Which is fragility. So that's the choice that was made. I think at some point, um, if we get to a point where the game is kind of like we're happy with the gameplay and pieces like that, moving some more of that over into more that doesn't need to be iterated as often, will increase stability, right? So it's a good place to way to try things out and experiment, but it's a little bit trickier for a long term kind of stability. So those are the trade offs there.
All right. Yeah, there's some other technologies that we wrote things in and then we rewrote it in a different tech or a different language. And then we rewrote it sometimes a third time in a different way in order to either get more performance or more stability or more scale or something,
Yeah,
or
I think
because we hit
it's
something.
only in the game industry as you're scaling out of anything, right? You've got some prototypes and you use those until they don't work anymore or the requirements change and you kind of get to go back and look at the technology. Lots of games have a long timeline and the technology is changing over time. And so what one group might like, the other group might not during the different life cycles. But yeah, I mean, it's making sure that the technology is fit for the purpose, right? My interesting challenge is to ensure that's true. Like we've done enough of our homework and investigation to make sure that the technology choices will be as long term as we can, right? But sometimes we just don't know, right? And so um, it's an interesting piece where the game we don't want to kind of constrain from a software engineer. What I've learned a little bit in the game industry is like finding a fun game is the most important thing, right? The technology that it's implemented in matters much less than that, right? I liken that back to people would have told you like Adobe Flash. Some people will remember that it was not the greatest technology, but people made great games with it, right? So like you can't the game is the thing that's important, not the technology.
Okay, that's on the easy side, TypeScript and Adobe Flash and stuff. Let's talk about the hard side for a moment. What is the most difficult challenge you've had to tackle so far at Playable Worlds?
Um,
Hopefully, it's something you can talk about.
Yeah, I'll say a little bit. I think the most difficult challenge we have in certain cases with this game at this point in time is the server cost side of things. That's what is the most time. We have a fairly ambitious game. We want to make it available to as many players as we want. There's some technology choices that we need to kind of like further go down the line to kind of like make sure that simulation. I mean, Raph's vision for the game is even more ambitious than what we have today, for sure.
Yeah.
To those cases. So we've made some trade-offs, and I think a lot of those are the right ones. But that's probably the biggest challenge here is making sure that we have a game that we can put out that's going to be cost performant, which is like we don't run we don't we make some money. We don't lose money for every player that's playing, right? And we get to the free to play side of things, right? Which is really the holy grail. Because for lots of the gameplay we want, we need people to be able to easily join the game, play the game, and that
Yeah.
requires it to be allow them to join and not have to pay.
Nice. Okay, we have another question from chat, and this one's about a post-launch feature. Okay.
Okay.
Vitreka is asking, how does that factor in with APIs? Example, developing to allow for APIs to be used in as many places as possible. You know what Vitreka and I are hoping for, that there'll be an API interface that we can use to connect external tools and stuff to the game. Okay, what are your thoughts and concerns on APIs? With the caveat that this is post-launch and not a promise as one launch
Yeah.
feature.
Again, these are like luxury problems from my perspective. Like, this is something
Okay.
I desperately want to build. It's kind of far in the future. APIs are like modern building blocks for software, so it requires some careful consideration on our side to make sure that they are up and stable and secure. And then they really, as the reason you want them is because they enable, sometimes we call it emergent gameplay and things that we haven't thought of being built. Any product's APIs or plugin system is a way to do that, right? So we have limited resources inside Playable Worlds as a company. The APIs actually open up another entire community of people to be also building software that interacts with our game. How that all looks in pieces is really kind of like a gameplay thing for certain cases, but it's a balance of creativity and security, right? And probably the two things that you really look for in those APIs.
And I'm going to turn the
Unleashing the
question around.
security and sorry, unlocking the creativity that people can do with certain games. Like, think about the Minecraft plugin server plugin world, right? That exploded, right, and made an entire so much more gameplay and so much more different things to do. Roblox in the same way, right? And that all requires extensibility from the game. Yeah, Raph. I mean, as Raph will tell you, I'm eager to get to the point where we're building those types of things.
Yeah. Vitreka, what is one thing you want to do with the API system once it exists, or try to do? Sometimes we can turn the. I'm asking
Oh yeah, all right.
Vitreka in chat who asked that question. I'm flipping it back to them to say, what do you want to do with it? We'll see what they say. And thank you to Thomas for that question also for his. By the way, there's okay, Vtrekus says, thanks. I'm really looking forward to the different fan-created third-party tools that enhance the game. But yeah, you don't want to compromise security. Market tools, probably the top of my list. Okay, so they're hoping to see what things are selling for or what's available for sale and stuff in various places before actually getting in a ship and going there.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the player economy or tools to
Yeah.
augment the player economy, right? You want to see, you need dashboards and charts of like what things are selling, what things are valuable, what things are rare, right?
Yeah. Mine is not that at all. I want an API interface where I can validate that someone is who they say they are in the game. So it'll tell us what their character name is, what guild they're in, if they're in a particular guild, it's that type of thing. And then I can choose whether or not to let them see inside my guild tools, for example. Yeah, that's what I'm excited about, but that's later. And there are plenty of people in our Discord community who don't want me to have that because they think that reduces their privacy, and stuff. So it's still has to be negotiated and scoped and talked about more. But yeah, I think sometimes verification increases trust, and sometimes it doesn't. But we shall see. All right. How many people are on your team working on the back end?
All of engineering is probably
Count contractors too.
I would probably about 9 directly in engineering. Small team for what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's a slim team, gentlemen. Yeah. There's a lot of multiple hat wearing. Yeah. Very nice. Would be good to have a balance to allow those sneaky Eve style gameplays that have subterfuge. Not that I'm into that sort of gameplay. Yeah. No, of course not. No, you're an upstanding citizen. You wouldn't do anything like that. Of course not. All right. I'm gonna thank you for your time. And I'm gonna thank
you, Rick.
Larrick and Thomas again. And I'm gonna invite Thomas to look around for for someone playing whom we can raid. I looked up and I looked at my interface to see who's playing, and I saw Burke Black. By the way, if you know who Burke Black is, he's going to do a show tonight on Stars Reach. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that's 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. He's going to take his first spin around Stars Reach. Rod's going to help him run around and see the game. Okay, so check it out if you can. I'm gonna just put his name in chat. Hang on a second. Oh wow. Okay, so Twitch chat let me put a link in chat. So very happy there. Yeah, so check him out tonight, but that's not for another 7 hours. So not right now. But thank you again. I know you have a ton of work to do today.
Rick.
And
thank you, Thomas,
guys for coming and
everyone
joining us.
watching.
All right.